Welcome to Yarns to Spin, the podcast where every story tells a song. Here you will find an eclectic collection of unusual stories, strange happenings, tall tales, folklore, and intriguing Americana. What is better than hearing a good story? Listening to the song that goes along with it. Yarns to Spin presents Mystery Road. The man was in a race with the undertaker. He knew his odds, and time was quickly running out. He hadn't been well for some time, and he decided that today would be the day. The day he would finally play his last hand, and he would lay all of his cards on the table. He figured there was nothing that they could do to him now. The sun was going down outside, the shadows growing longer. Well, he thought, let's get this show on the road. Gathering what strength he had left, he sat up in his bed and adjusted his pillow. That drew the attention of the small gathering in his room. They all moved closer as he beckoned them with his hand. It was mostly family. He wanted to make sure they could all hear him, especially the researcher. His illness had taken his stamina, and his voice wasn't much over a whisper. He had rehearsed this moment in his mind many times. How does one begin a story that is unbelievable and happened decades ago? A story so dark and fantastic that he had been forced to keep it a secret all of these years. To him it seemed like yesterday. He could recall all of the details. At 19, he was full of vim and vigor. Ready to take on the world, he had to chuckle, if only the world knew. With a hoarse whisper, he slowly started talking. The room was deathly quiet. You could hear a pin drop. And as he whispered, he watched the faces of those around him. At first, they looked quizzical, and then astonished. He expected some of them to believe, but of course some simply couldn't. It didn't matter now, just the truth. As he continued talking, he felt a strange sense of relief. Finally, he thought, after all this time, I can get this off my chest. Being in the military and witnessing what he did, he knew he had no choice. For all of those years, he had to keep quiet. There were rumors of people disappearing after divulging such secrets. He had been part of the team that had arrived early at the scene. He remembered seeing the road being cut through the mesa. He remembered thinking, what are those huge trucks out here for in this desolate place? And that big crane, what's going on here? He had first heard it was just a brush fire to check out, to make sure that it didn't spread. But then someone close by said, that fire's nothing to worry about. Take a look over there. Over there on the mesa. What in the world? The thought of this scene pulled him back to the task at hand, back to his room and the people around him. He glanced around the room one more time, and then whispered these words. The words he thought he would never tell. Slowly, he whispered, I know what they found at Mystery Road.
Mystery Road. Mystery road, mystery road. I know it was found at Mystery Road. When the sun goes down, the desert air grows cold. A rattlesnake crawls across the road. Ooh, mystery road. Does it got a secret too dark to tell? That was coming up like they did Roswell. Ooh, and mystery road. I know what they found at Mystery Road. Mystery Road, Mystery Road. I know what they found at Mystery Road.
In New Mexico, about 4 miles north of the town called Aztec, you will find a dirt road. This road, called Heart Canyon Road, is about 6 miles long and will split to the left. Follow it for another mile or so, and you'll come across a plaque standing in the desert. This marks the spot of what is called the Aztec UFO crash, and what many call Mystery Road. Mystery Road, according to eyewitnesses and old-timers, is the road the military made to take out a crashed UFO in 1948. The Aztec crash is often called the Other Roswell. It supposedly happened on March the 25th, 1948, just 8 months after Roswell. The story has been told in numerous books and films, and at the time appeared in newspapers. Aztec, however, never received the attention that Roswell did, though some researchers say it's just as intriguing. In 1949, a book about the incident was published by a man named Frank Scully. His book, Behind the Flying Saucers, brought attention to the so-called second saucer crash. 2 of the main witnesses in this book were accused of fabricating their accounts. It came out that these 2 witnesses were supposedly involved in concocting a scheme to sell an oil-finding device. The device was called a doodlebug. This device, the 2 claimed, was the result of alien technology. A trial ensued, and both men were labeled as con artists. Following this, the Aztec story, along with the book, was deemed a hoax, and the public soon lost interest. So from 1952 until 1986, the Aztec incident was off limits to most serious researchers. This began to change with the publishing of a book called The Aztec UFO Incident by Scott and Suzanne Ramsey, along with Frank Thayer. The Ramseys spent over 30 years researching the incident and concluded that the Aztec story was not a hoax. Their evidence concluded that the government had gone to great lengths to cover up the incident. Aztec, as one researcher put it, is a long and winding road. The crash supposedly happened in March of 1948. A UFO was recovered that contained 16 humanoid bodies. The UFO landed in what is called Hart Canyon, which is about 12 miles northeast of Aztec, New Mexico. The craft is said to have measured almost 100 feet in diameter. There were several people at the scene, including an oil rig crew, several police officers, and several citizens that had tracked the UFO. One eyewitness described how the craft was mostly intact, but had a broken window. It was through this opening that a pole was inserted and triggered a door to open. The recovery mission was headed by the Air Force and the 5th Army Division. The recovery took about 2 weeks, and the craft was carried out on trucks over the so-called Mystery Road. All 16 of the craft's occupants died in the crash, and their remains were then transported to Los Alamos for further study. The Aztec incident was done with top government secrecy. All of those involved, military as well as any citizens, were sworn to secrecy for life. However, the event was leaked by several eyewitnesses, and as mentioned in the intro, at least one eyewitness made a deathbed confession to witnessing the aftermath of the crash. So what really happened at Aztec, New Mexico? The story contains everything that makes for an intriguing mystery. A crashed saucer, 16 dead bodies, a military recovery team, a famous book along with con men, and a remote area with a history of radar bases and atomic testing. It is a tangled, convoluted tale. But Aztec is now starting to lose its reputation as just a footnote. It may always play second fiddle to Roswell. But thanks to the years of dedicated research and persistence, it is finding its place on the list of UFO crashes. Many witnesses have since died, and as time goes by, we will have to rely on those willing to untangle the story to find the truth. If the truth is out there, it just may be at the end of Mystery Road.
I know what they found at Mystery Road. Mystery Road. Mystery Road. I know what they found at Mystery Road.